Okay, so I'm gonna move up to the target and show you where the hits are. The target basically is 50 feet away from me, and the silhouette is half a man size. So you can see the fresh impact. You can see the silver 8 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a couple more. All right, so we're gonna talk about guns. Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Goatman. In this episode, I am Instructor Goatman because we're gonna talk about guns. I love guns as much as I love goats, but not the Taliban kind of love. Okay, so in the beginning of this video, you saw me fire off a couple of shots. I'm gonna talk about technique. Again, whenever I talk about guns, I don't talk about tactics because I was in the army, but I was not a tactician. I was not one of those door-kicking rangers like some of my friends are. I was just a pogue. But I do love guns, I do love freedom, and I do love learning. I'm not a master of shooting. I have a lot to learn, just like we all have a lot to learn on different topics. But in this particular video, we're gonna talk about guns from a technician standpoint. So I'm also an engineer and a weightlifting coach. And I bring those up because over the years, weightlifting has evolved as a sport. Technique changed as rules change. As an engineer, one of my function is continuous improvement. We always look for ways to cut costs without compromising safety, quality, or cost. So that's my profession in the private sector. I talk about those things because the same thing, it's no different in the gun industry or in the Second Amendment community. Technology will always change, but the thing is, techniques usually are behind technology. What I mean by that is when I first joined the Army, we didn't have any high-speed red dots or ACOGs or aim point, anything like that. It was peep sight, and we were taught a certain way back in the 90s. And over the years, obviously, technology evolved, new ways to quickly acquire target like this were developed, and that's just how it is. So a lot of times we've got to look back and say, okay, what can I do? Because we cannot be dogmatic with the way we shoot. We have to challenge the status quo. We have to be better. We have to continuously become better at what we do, whether it's shooting or engineering or this or that. There are two things that I want to talk about that I changed, the way I changed in my shooting because of technology. One is the height of this red dot. Typically, the height of a red dot is normally around 1.5 inches from above the Picatinny rail. What I did was I raised the height a little bit higher for a reason, and that's because when you shoot with the red dot, you don't necessarily have to, crunch it down like this, because that's very inefficient. Whenever you move, that's what's called efficiency in movement. I talk about that in weightlifting. I talk about that in ergonomics as an engineer. The less we move inefficiently, the better, because really the goal is efficiency. So by me raising the red dot a little bit higher than normal, I was able to acquire the target without doing this. I simply bring the gun up and I get that sight alignment, and then I squeeze the trigger. So that's one thing I changed. The other thing that I changed is back in the day when I first joined the Army, we were taught to bring the buttstock to the shoulder like this. What I've been doing lately, again, it's all about improvement in efficiency. Instead of finding the buttstock and looking for that pocket in my shoulder, I bring my shoulder forward. So what I do is I simply bring the gun up and move my shoulder forward. So by doing that, again, it's a quicker target acquisition. So with those two technology and technique that I changed, it seems like I'm able to acquire the target a lot faster. So now just some information. After I left the Army, I became a competitive shooter before I took up weightlifting. And for years and years, I tried to achieve that level of what's called master. So there are different classifications in rifle shooting. I competed in the NRA service rifle category. I was a sharpshooter and then a marksman, expert, and then there becomes a master. So master is pretty high up there. And believe it or not, it was not the army that taught me how to shoot better. It was civilians. It was my buddies in the Second Amendment community that taught me their technique to become a better shooter. So I shared that information with you because, again, we can learn from each other as civilians or military. My military friends can teach you civilians how to do tactical stuff. Again, if you want to talk about that, you can talk to my friends who served in the 75th Rangers, 82nd Airborne, those high-speed units. But at the same time, as military guys, as former military, or if anybody who happen to love guns, we have to be open-minded enough to say, you know what, I'm going to listen to somebody that might know what they're talking about. And that's where I am. So you cannot be dogmatic in the way you do things. You have to be open-minded. So the bottom line is this. I have experimented with the height of the scope of the red dot from 1.5 to roughly 1.75. It allows me to quickly acquire the target without doing this because it's inefficient. The other thing too, the other benefit of keeping a head straight like this instead of like this is there's better awareness and there's better situational awareness. See, in weightlifting, if you're in a position that screws up your what do you call that, your awareness in space, it's not good. It's same thing in shooting. If your head is in awkward position, like like this, it's less awareness that you have going on in your brain versus you're standing up like this. You know what's going on. Situational awareness is important. The other thing too that I'd like to share with you, again, just to reiterate, is the positioning of the shoulder. Instead of shooting like this, like we were taught in the Army, I experimented with shooting. Just bring your shoulder forward, like boom, target acquisition, boom, target acquisition. Within 1 second, you fire up that gun. Within 1 second. I think in some standards it's 3 seconds or less, but I can do it in 1 second because of those changes that I made. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so hopefully that's helpful. Again, I don't want to come across like I know everything. I don't. I'm still learning, even in my 50s. So you always have to learn to get better at your craft, but you just have to be open-minded. So I hope that this video is helpful, and keep them in the X and freedom first. So remember that. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Without, Instructor Goatman is out.